Yes, people. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching around the world. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Football's 12 Man podcast. Welcome back to a kind of Arsenal roundup, really, because there's been so many news, or so much news, should I say, over the last 24 to 48 hours. Just keeps coming. Just keeps coming and coming, and I ain't complaining for one. I'll tell you that now. I'm really happy that we're hearing that Arsenal are moving in the right direction. Finally, looks to be getting our lot of our deals done. I need to see some outgoings now. And guess what? We're now starting to see some outgoings. We're going to talk a little bit about Granit Xhaka. We're going to talk a little bit about the rumours of Santi Cazorla returning to Arsenal. We're going to talk about Steve Round, who is now leaving the club or has left the club. Maybe Santi can come and replace him. Who knows? We're going to talk a little bit about Arsene Wenger's statue and what we think of that. And we're going to talk about some exciting news that has come out literally that I've just been messaged today. And the fact that Kylian Mbappe would be Arsenal's first choice if he was to come to the Premier League. Or should I say that Arsenal would be Kylian Mbappe's first choice should he come to England? That's come from a couple of sources, Arsenal related today, and of course has caused a stir. Big up everybody who's in the chat. Make sure you do me a favor. Make sure you get your questions in. Make sure you get your super chats in. Make sure you put a Q at the start of them so I know that they're a question. Love to get your thoughts on today's news. And I will go through as many of them as I can. I'm going to be with you for around about half hour or so, and then I'm off out today. I'm going to be going off to a music festival to go and see the Vaccines, the Wombats, Two-Door Cinema Club over in Croydon. So I'm looking forward to that one today. I just hope I don't get burnt. I'm looking out now thinking, oh my God, it is a warm one today. So make sure you do me a favor and like this. We're nearly getting the way to 10 and a half already. We only hit 10 a few days ago. If we can get up to 11 in the next couple of days, wow, I'll be so pleased. So thank you all so much for joining me bright and early on a Friday. I hope you're all enjoying your day. Hope you're all doing well. And let's get into it. Let's talk first of all about Granit Xhaka, because he has left the club or is leaving the club for around 25 million euros, 21 million pounds. Now, I remember when it was announced, I kind of thought, I hope we could get a bit more for him than that. Actually, after rethinking this, I was seeing rumours of 13, 14, 15 million when he was rumoured to go to Roma last summer. Then I saw rumours of around 17 million when Bayern Leverkusen were interested. So to try and bump that up to 25 million now is actually fair play to Edu and the negotiating team, because Granit Xhaka had an unbelievably good season. He's only 29 years old. He's not somebody I look at now and think, you are done, you're dusted. He's never injured. He comes in and he gives 110%. Whether you think that's good enough as a player for Granit Xhaka or not is a question mark. And I do think that in the 7 years that we've had him, he has only really had 2 seasons which people have said have stood out and have made us actually step back and go fair play. But I still have a sour taste in my mouth about what happened to him when he walks off at Crystal Palace. And some people say get over it. I struggle to when a player does that. I don't deny the fact that he's got himself back into the good books at Arsenal, and it was a good farewell and a one that I think he did deserve in the end. But I can't get that memory out of my mind. And I was listening to TalkSport, and of course, Rory was on there talking about why are Arsenal just forgiving this guy? If anybody does that to a club, they need to be shown the door. And of course, there were circumstances around that. And I used the example last time of trying to put everything in our shoes, because we can't as footballers sometimes. But it's very, very difficult for me to hear somebody receive abuse and then go and take it out on the whole of the stadium. I found that really out of order, if I'm honest, and I still do. I think he will actually regret that. I do think he will. I think he will look back and go, maybe I would have changed the way that I did that. Maybe I should have come off and just run off the pitch. Because that was the thing. The first thing that annoyed people was the fact that he was waltzing off when we were losing. And if you remember, it was the year where we were going for top 4 and we'd lost to Crystal Palace. So it was that year, and he walks off, and it all goes wrong from there. It's time to allow Granit Xhaka to move on. It's time to say thank you for being a servant of 7 years. It's also time for us to look back at, let's be real, a season which I think from a fan and player perspective is one that will be spoken very, very highly of. The consistency shown in that progressive role. I don't remember seeing him getting sent off. I don't remember seeing him sloppily giving the ball away. I don't remember seeing any penalties given away. I don't remember him becoming a liability. And I think there's 2 reasons for that. 1, his head and his mindset, and 2, Mikel Arteta. Mikel Arteta saw him as a progressive midfielder before anybody else. Unai Emery and Arsene Wenger saw him more as a holding midfielder. And I think that was why he was put into those situations, which then lost his head. Loose cannon, boom. When you've got a loose cannon in your team, keep them away from the danger area. And that is basically what's happening. What was happening with Granit Xhaka was he was in the danger area all the time. So a mistake was happening, boom, goal. We haven't seen that as much. And I think he complemented Partey and Ødegaard. And if we're looking at a revamp of midfield, which, excuse me, I think we will be, then we have to remember what he did and how he actually was phenomenal for us. Will we replace that with Kai Havertz or Declan Rice? We shall find out. I'm not going to say yes or no yet before I see it with my own eyes. Outgoings are starting to happen, people. I don't expect us to be announcing anything other than Rice and Timber in the next couple of days before we start seeing outgoings, before we then start seeing more incomings, because there will be more incomings. Outgoings need to happen now. They really do, just for squad harmony. Because if players are coming in and they're seeing this absolutely full of players, they're going to be thinking, who's here and who's not then? I want everybody that walking through the door to be 100% committed, and I want them to see the players around them that are 100% committed. Now, some of these players we're not going to get a lot of money for. A lot of people are talking about us receiving 200 million. That's not going to happen. That is not going to happen unless you've signed different players to what the league ones that are moving. Granit Xhaka, we've done well to get 25 million for. I think the only two other players that will look to get money around that and more would be Balogun and Partey. Now, Thomas Partey, I'm going to bring this question up actually because my mum texted me today. Did you hear today's rumours Partey could be off to Manchester United? I can't see that happening. I don't think Thomas Partey wants to leave Arsenal because he hates England. I think he actually wants to leave Arsenal for reasons that are going to be off and outside of the pitch. I don't think that he's looking at Arsenal going, I need to stay in England and go and play for another English club. I think he wants out. I think he wants out of England. So I honestly can't see him staying at Arsenal. And from what I hear, Arteta would be happy for him to move on, which to me suggests that we've got somebody else coming in. Manchester United would want him. I have no doubt in my mind. But I think it would be very foolish for Arsenal to sell to Manchester United as one of our rivals this coming season, because that's what they're going to be. I think it would be a foolish move. So I just can't see that one happening. I feel like this could probably be a Saudi Arabia deal, or maybe he'll want to go back to Spain or over to Italy. I don't think Thomas Partey will stay at Arsenal. How much can we get for him? I don't really want to see him go, if I'm honest, because I think he's top quality. And I think we need strength in depth. And if we're losing him, we definitely need players to come in to replace him. Otherwise, we're short again. So it is a worry for me. But I do think personally, we'll probably look to get 40 million, I imagine. 30-year-old, injured quite a bit. I don't think we'll get much more than that. I think we bought him for 45, so I imagine we'll get 35 to 40 back now that we've had 3-4 years out of him. That's what I'd like to try and get. And I think the only position that a club will be in to pay that will probably be Saudi. So I imagine it'll be going over there, if I'm honest. So there's two outgoings. Balogun, I don't know where, but we've slapped a £50 million price tag on him. We ain't going to get that for him, trust me. But I think we could probably get 35 million for a young English player. I know he's obviously chosen the USA to play for now, but there's a lot of rumours that there's some problems with him mentally as well. I think his attitude has been a problem for Mikel Arteta. Apparently, when he signs the deal at Arsenal before, there was some problems with him, and his team are an absolute nightmare to deal with. So from what I'm hearing my side, yeah, a lot of sources are saying that he's going to be going. I don't know about Eddie. I have no idea. If we were to buy a striker in, I wouldn't have anything against replacing both Eddie and Balogun with one more, because last season we had Trossard and Jesus. We didn't have that one of quality. We had Eddie. I would like that to be a quality centre forward. I don't know who that is. I don't know. A lot of people have spoken about Vlahovic. I don't know if that's going to happen. I think that would be a very good signing. I like him. He had a terrible season over in Juventus, but people forget how bad players have been in other leagues and then gone and absolutely smashed it in other leagues. So don't rule that one out as being a good signing. But for me, there's a lot to be done without going still with the likes of Nuno Tavares, the likes of Sambi Lokonga, the likes of Pepe. What's happening with him? We've seen some players leave now, Pablo Mari and Ainsley Maitland-Niles, what's happening with Cedric and Runnison. So, is Charlie Patino going to be here? There's quite a few now which are up in the air. And I think we need to decide whereabouts we're going here now. Is this going to be a complete mass exodus and clear out from all those players mentioned? Does he want to actually keep and give anybody a try? I.e., does Tavares have a place in this side? Does Balogun? Does Party still? Does Eddie? What happens with Fabio Vieira? Is he going to be given another season, or is he going to be loaned out or even sold? So there's a lot up in the air right now. Two players though that look like they're now staying. I've got my bruised banana, my Ian Wright, by the way. Where is it? There it is. My Ian Wright bruised banana cup of tea for the morning or the afternoon, should I say now? Two players that look like they're potentially staying now, who I think look like they could be leaving or flirting with the opportunity or option of leaving. Is Kieran Tierney and Emil Smith Rowe. Now, I honestly believe that they'll both stay. I think Mikel Arteta wants them both to stay. The only thing that can change that is if one of the or two of the players wants to go. If Kieran Tierney honestly believes that first team football is out of the not an option for at Arsenal, he can go as far as I'm concerned because he wants to. But if he wants to come fight for his place, like I hope that he does, I believe he can do that. I believe he can. I'm looking at Zinchenko, and I think he's absolutely vital and pivotal when he's on the ball. But off the ball, defensively, Tierney leaves him dead in the water. He's so much better. Emil Smith Rowe, if there's a knock to Martinelli, he's my first choice probably to come in. Trossard, another one we've got. But Smith Rowe is another choice in the middle or on the right. Been training in the attacking eight. I want to keep Smith Rowe, man. He's great competition. I would say, along with Tierney, Tomiyasu, Smith Rowe, and Trossard, they're the four players of last season that I was okay when they came in. The others, sorry, they weren't really. So we need to see some outgoings, but it can't be players like that, in my opinion. Let's talk about the statue. Let's talk about Arsene Wenger's statue quickly. We mentioned it the other day. Apparently, it's being unveiled on Thursday, the 3rd of August, which is the day after we play Monaco in the Emirates Cup. I personally feel like it's deserved. I don't know whereabouts it's going in the stadium. Obviously, as you walk up the stairs of the Emirates to the right, you've got Bergkamp and Henry. If you keep going further, you've got Herbert Chapman. And then if you go right round towards the other bridge, towards the North Bank Bridge, you've obviously got Tony Adams. So I imagine it will be towards the clock end or towards the tunnel or towards one of those areas. I have no idea whereabouts in the stadium it will be. But I think it needs to be somewhere where which is respected. It's a statue I think we all knew was happening. A lot of people had said that it was deserved, and I do believe that it is, to be fair. The guy put Arsenal back on the map when they were going absolutely nowhere back in 1995. Graham had left, everyone was crying. I remember being upset myself. Bruce Rioch had come in, no one had really any understanding. And David Dean got his man alongside Dennis Bergkamp, who had brought in the season before. And we just went forward with him. Arsene Wenger was able to get the best out of everything. So I think he deserves a lot of credit for the first 10 years he had at the club. The last 10 years, yeah, disappointing, actually. Disappointing. Let me know in the chat who you think should get trophies. That's a really good question. Trophies. Who you think would be nice if Arsenal get trophies? Who you think would get statues at the club? Because, Tatty Ginger is saying George Graham should also get one. I wouldn't be against that. I think he was unbelievable for us in terms of a manager. Herbert Chapman and Arsene Wenger have got one. Why should George Graham not? I've always said Rocky and Wright should get one together. I think there should be that pose that they have together. Who else deserves one? Who else deserves one? Do any of the Invincibles deserve one? Does Patrick Vieira deserve one? Does any of the current Emirates crop deserve a statue? Let us know. Let us know who you think in the chat. I'd be really, really interested, and get your questions in. We've got 5 at the moment that are starred. But before we do them, Santi Cazorla returning to Arsenal. This, I think, will happen. It looks like Steve Round is gone or going. And fair play to Steve Round. He's done a good job with Arteta. But I actually am not against changing the number 2s. If you look at what the success of Sir Alex Ferguson over the years at Manchester United, it wasn't with one number 2. He had Brian Kidd. He had Steve McLaren. He had what was his name? Rene Molson. What was his name? Rene someone. Someone tell me in the chat. he had the other guy who went over to Carlos Queiroz. That's who I'm thinking of. Who else did he have? Mike Phelan. He always had good number twos that were changing all the time. I'm not against that. I'm actually not against that at all. But I tell you what, this would lift the crowd. Santi Cazorla, for me, is probably one of my favourite players in the Emirates era. And every time I watched him, he was head and shoulders above everyone on the pitch. And I remember Jack Wilshere being asked, who's the best player that you played with in training? Santi Cazorla. Not Mesut Ozil, not Alexis Sanchez, none of the youngsters that he was with at the time. Always Santi Cazorla. One of the most two-fitted players I've seen. If he played in a better team around him, instead of some of the names that we were remembering of the Emirates era that perhaps weren't great, like the Bentners and the Chamaks and the Almunias of this world and Javinios, I think we would have actually seen a really, really good talent. Imagine him in this side right now. Wow, he'd be phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And what I love about players that are still this kind of age, they can continue in training, they can join in training. He will wow people still in training. Yeah, he's absolutely superb. So I think he needs to be given that chance to come and be part of the coaching team. Because let's be real, we've got some fantastic players now, the coaching staff now. Nicholas Jover has been fantastic with set pieces. Now, last season, you could say that perhaps we dipped in our set pieces. We're getting quite caught out at some of them. But the season before that, we only conceded like 2 goals from set pieces the whole season. So definitely better on that. We're definitely more threatening from set pieces now. We never used to be that team. So he deserves his flowers. Carlos Kester, obviously, you saw in the documentary how fantastic he was with players. Airport Albert, we know as the number 2, has been fantastic. And Steve Round on the coaching staff, I think, has now opened the door for Santi Cazorla's return. And I know that Santi Cazorla and Xabi Alonso are 2 of Arteta's best friends. Santi Cazorla was his best mate at Arsenal. I know that, him and Monreal. So I think this would be a great move for Arsenal. I really, really do. Before we come to your questions, let's talk about Kylian Mbappe. Now, I'm going to bring something up on my phone. I'm not going to bring it up on screen because I haven't actually screenshotted it for it because I looked at it and thought, yeah, whatever. This has come from AFC stuff on Twitter from Miguel Delaney, who says, it is understood that Arsenal would actually be Kylian Mbappe's first preference if he was ever to go to the Premier League. This is both because he likes the evolution of Mikel Arteta's team and he would also enjoy the challenge of delivering the title to the club again. He's nevertheless seen as way he is nevertheless seen as a way beyond Arsenal's budget, and it should be stressed there has been no contact. I think this is really interesting, and I'll tell you why. It's not because we're going to go and sign Kylian Mbappe, because I can categorically tell you that's not going to happen this summer. But what I do think is interesting is 2 things. One, we're up there again now. We're being linked with people like that. Even if it doesn't happen, it's not a problem for me because the ambition is there. It's like me being the manager of Wigan and trying to appoint Carlo Ancelotti, right? Never going to happen, but the ambition's there for me to get the best manager in. So that's what I'm seeing here. Arsenal are going for Mbappe in the way that they're saying, would you be interested in coming to us? He's turning round, apparently, and he's making it clear, not to Arsenal, but to Real Madrid and to PSG, yeah, Arsenal will be interesting for me because that panics people, doesn't it? That panics the fact that actually, yeah, he might want to go to England and come and compete against Haaland and come and be in the best league in the world. Arsenal don't have the budget, in my opinion, to be paying somebody £600, £1,000 a week, or whatever the hell he's on, right? And he'll want more than what he's on now. So that's not going to happen, right? That's not going to happen. But what I will say is that Kylian Mbappe is on the move. PSG are probably going to have to give him ridiculous offer for him to stay. And is he mucking them around again? Yes, he is. Yes, he actually is mucking them around again. But Real Madrid are going to get their man, in my opinion. Now, Real Madrid, apparently, it's interesting, have got to sell some players if they want to get him in. Because they've just signed Jude Bellingham for £115 million, which means that they haven't got another £300 million to be spending on players. Now, Kylian Mbappe is going to cost a lot of money. You're going to be looking at £150 to £200 million mark to get Kylian Mbappe in because he's one of the best players in the world. A lot of people are saying that Vinicius Junior plays there, so Mbappe isn't needed. But actually, they'll make it work. Trust me. Mbappe can play across the front 3, and I'm sure that Vinicius Junior probably could as well. They're that good. They're quality footballers. We're talking about world-class players here. We're not talking about someone who's not going to be able to play at another position. I think that is personally, it's personally going to happen to Real Madrid, and I think they'll get their man. I really do. So interesting that Arsenal have said they're interested in talking about the potential of Mbappe if the rumours are true, but I just don't see that one happening. I really don't. If we put ourselves in the bracket of those sort of players, I'm a happy boy. Let's go to your questions before we do come to a close. This one comes from Tony Fulbrook, who says, Dan, with all the key party statements, who would you get for the injuries and not showing up for the important finishing matches like the last 2 years? Great show, Dan. A little bit harsh on Thomas Partey, in my opinion, Tony. I think he's been exceptional. I do think when he has played for Arsenal, he's been one of the best players on the pitch and also the most important player and the most consistent player. But we've seen a lot of injuries. And at the back end of last season, his form just fell off a cliff. I would say in the last 4 or 5 games, probably West Ham onwards, it was dreadful, in fact, from him in games. And there would have been justification to play Jorginho ahead of him a little bit sooner. It just wasn't working for him. So I remember games against West Ham in particular, Manchester City away in particular, um, Southampton, everybody was bad, to be fair. And then Brighton, Forest, yeah, it got worse, really, didn't it? So fair play. We will need to replace him, though, if he goes. That's for sure. Steve, big up yourself. Timber having a medical at Arsenal and should sign. What do you expect from him? And the thoughts on Saliba signing the new deal as well. Saliba and Reece Nelson being announced as signing new deals is good for the club. Now, Reece Nelson will come back to in a minute, but Saliba, this is actually as important as signing someone. I'm not even joking. Imagine losing him. We'd have to go and replace Saliba. How'd you do that? 21-year-old, one of the best centre-backs in the world right now on form. Definitely the best young centre-back in the world. Where are we going with that if he goes? So important that he's signed. And Reece Nelson, I think he could be a squad player. He's not going to come into the side. I do think we need an upgrade on him, and it would still look at his position and think perhaps we need somebody that's upgraded on him. But I'm more than happy for him to come in around some of the League Cup games and some of the FA Cup games in the early rounds. There's no problem with that whatsoever. He wants to be at the club. He's an Arsenal boy. It's not a massive deal for me. It would be a deal if he was playing all the time, but as a squad player, I'm not really too fussed. And as for Jurriën Timber, I think people are sleeping on how good this signing is. This is a fantastic talent at 22 years old who can play right back, right centre back, inverted right back, number 6. I think he'd be a phenomenal signing. So I'm really, really looking forward to Timber. I think it's a great bit of business. The Mongoose says, do you think that Timber's being brought in to replace Ben White? No, I think he's being brought in to complement him. And what I mean by that is, how many times did we see last season problems on that right-hand side of defence? Not when everyone was fit, but when Saliba was out, it looked a shambles. Rob Holding couldn't play alongside Ben White. I think they proved that at Chelsea away last season in the game we actually won. There was some poor defending going on that 4-2 win. It was absolutely shambles between the pair of them. Ben White, I love him. I think he's fantastic at right back. But Timber's going to push him all the way. And this is what we want, guys. I don't think that we should be looking at this as, oh no, what happens to Ben White? Oh my God, if we sign a striker, how's Eddie going to get in this side? This is what we want, people, right? This is what we need. I want a Zinchenko and Tierney situation in every single position. I want a Tomiyasu, Timber and Ben White position at right back in every other single position. This is what we need to do to compete with Man City, because this is what they do. If it was Liverpool we're competing with or Manchester United this coming year, I wouldn't think it would be as important. And I think we would probably have a great chance of winning the league. The only way we're going to have a great chance of winning the league against this City side is if we bring in players of this quality that can compete with players in every single position. And that's what we need to be doing. Latvian Guna, big up yourself, says maybe Tierney if he leaves. Apparently he'll sit down with Arteta this week and discuss his future. I want Tierney staying. I'm sorry. I want him staying. I do not want to lose him. I think he's a top talent. And I think he's everything that we should need in an Arsenal side. Like, I really do. I think he's just what we need in an Arsenal side. I think he's got leadership qualities. He's got a mentality that is to win, because obviously at Celtic, that's installed in you from a boy. I think this player's quality, man. And if Zinchenko was to get a long-term injury, which to be fair, he has had injury knocks, and his form dipped, by the way, at the end of the season. He was another one who was party that was an experienced head that went down. Kieran Tierney, he has to come in for me. So that's the option I see. Big up Jay. He says, do you think all this party talk is for him to get a contract extension? No, I don't. I genuinely believe that he might be looking elsewhere, mate. I think that Saudi Arabia is tempting him. I really do. And I think that potentially Juventus and some of the other clubs that are coming in might actually have a chance of getting him as well. All I hope is that we sell him for a good money. I don't want to be selling party for like 15 million, 25 million. He needs to be going for 40. If Ruben Neves goes to Saudi Arabia for 47 million or whatever the hell it was, I need to be seeing a party going for similar to that, because he's a top talent. So let's come to your last few questions. Latvian Guna says, can this Mbappe information be also a sign for other big players to entice them to move to Arsenal in the future? Look, I don't think Mbappe is coming to Arsenal. My point was that it's nice for us to actually be in a conversation around Mbappe, even if it's the absolute tiniest of rumour. Years ago, that wouldn't have happened. That would not have happened. So for me, it's great to see. Let's have a look at this one from Noonan, who's also said, do you think Pepe has a future? I think he has a future in football, but not at Arsenal. Mikel Arteta, I think, has made it clear that he's not in his plans. Pepe's on £148,000 a week or something crazy like that. So it'll be good to get him off the wage bill. If you want my honest opinion, I don't think anyone's prepared to pay anything more than 10 million for Pepe because of what he's been in the last couple of years. So I think that we'll probably end up just releasing his contracts and come into mutual termination, and he'll go and play his football somewhere else. The only hope that we could have is that Saudi Arabia might want him, and they might give us 20 million for him or something like that. But I really don't see that happening. A lot of people are saying give him another go, like bring him in to cover for Saka. I think that ship sailed, and this is coming from someone who actually doesn't mind Pepe. He's a player I actually looked at Arsenal and saw creating something, saw scoring some good goals. But I think at times flattered to deceive. Let's take this from Kevy Kev, who says, who's more likely to be an Arsenal player next season? Tchouaméni, Caicedo, or Lavia? Out of those three names, I'd say Lavia, because I know for a fact that Arsenal would be one of his preferences, and he definitely would leave Southampton. And with the other two, I'm not so sure that Arsenal would be a preference or that they're definitely leaving. Now, I know Caicedo is leaving. I think he's going Chelsea. I would be very, 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 very surprised if we've called out of that completely. That would be a very strange thing to do. To want him only 5 months ago, 6 months ago, and then be told actually probably not going to get him at all now. With Tchouaméni, this is all on Real Madrid. If Real Madrid want to be looking at getting rid of this guy, then yeah, I think Tchouaméni would come to Arsenal, because it's a club right now that he looks at and thinks, I can play first team football. I come and play Champions League football. I could live in London. I know a lot about Patrick Vieira and Henry at Arsenal being a Frenchman. And I think he knows that him and Rice in the middle would be a superb midfield. And then Havertz and Erdegaard try and share that position for the attacking role. I think it would be a fantastic squad depth signing if we get either of those, to be fair. But I think if I had my choice, I'd go for Caicedo. I would. A lot of people would say, what, over Tchouaméni? Yeah, I would. Because Caicedo's killing it in this league. Caicedo can play in ridiculous amount of positions. Tchouaméni is unreal from what I've seen. But he is over in Spain. Is he going to come in and be okay? I believe he will be. But we don't know that. I know Caicedo already. So my order would be Caicedo, Tchouaméni, and Lavia. But out of the three, I think Lavia is probably more than likely, if I'm honest, at the moment. Let's come to the last few of your questions now. Trinia says, do you think we should keep Pepe to possibly play as a forward if Balogun's to leave? He can play a variety of positions. I think Arteta can get good use of him. I don't think Arteta can get good use of him, mate, because I think across the front three, he's tried that. It hasn't worked. I actually think Pepe's better position is on the left wing. I think through the middle, we haven't seen it enough. And I think when at Anfield, we saw it in his early days against Emery, it looked phenomenal. Alongside Aubameyang, was it? Or Lacazette, I think. But it was a really good game from him. And then the other option that I saw with Pepe, which really impressed me, was the FA Cup final against Chelsea that we won in 2020, where he was playing through the middle with Aubameyang. And I think that really did work. But unfortunately, I think that ship has sailed, bro. I really do. I can't see that one happening now. Let's have a look at our last three questions. Actually, we've got a few questions here, actually, that have snuck in. Let's do these. Okay, we've got 4 more questions. We've got one there. We have got one there from Steve. We've got one there. We've got one there and one there. Right, these are the last ones. The last ones is going to be James's question, and then I've got to wrap up, people, because I'm due to go out. So on the volley, it says, do you think if Vieira don't perform during pre-season, Arsenal will be inclined to send him out on loan? Same goes for Marquinhos, but would we get other players in? I think we will get players in. I don't think players in is going to be a problem. I think players out is more the issue at the moment. Marquinhos is another one that I think needs to go out on loan or try and get some form of first team football at a good level, not at Norwich City. No offense. I think he needs to stay in the league. Where's that going to be? He might fancy one of the relegated sides now that have just come up. He might fancy Luton. He might fancy Sheffield United. He might fancy Burnley. I have no idea. But I do think that there's a talent there, but I don't know that it's going to hit the heights of Arsenal level. Fabio Vieira, I've said this before. I'm really sorry, Fabio. I don't get you. I don't get you. I don't get it. I don't see a good footballer there. I don't. I see some nice touches, but come on. Granit Xhaka's had some nice touches for 7 years. I need to see more from Fabio Vieira. And it's not even the fact that he's lightweight. He's weak. There's a difference between being lightweight and weak. Yeah, if you're lightweight, you're like Kante or Lionel Messi or Riyad Mahrez or Santi Cazorla. This guy's just weak. I see him on the floor all the time. He's easy to push the ball. I don't get him. I don't get him. I hope I'm wrong, but I cannot see Fabio Vieira working at Arsenal. This is a huge L as far as I'm concerned for 35 million. I'll be getting him on loan over to Wolves, try and bulk him up a bit, play with some Portuguese players he knows, stay in the Premier League and see what he's like for them. That's what I'd be doing with Fabio Vieira. Let's go to Steve's comment who says it's important Arsenal prepared for the season and push on. When Arsenal drop points, it's important to bounce back each time. We'll drop point. Each team will drop points as long as it don't happen too much. I think things should be fine. Yeah, if you think how many points we dropped last season, it's more than people think because we were in a title race for so long. People thought that Arsenal were outstanding. We dropped points at Old Trafford. We lost there. We dropped points at Everton away. We dropped points at Southampton away and Southampton at home. We lost to Brighton at home. We lost to Forest away. We lost to Man City home and away. We lost to drop points at Southampton at home, West Ham at home, away, and Liverpool away. There's like 10 games there where we drop points. You can't do that. You can afford to drop points to like 4 teams in this league at the moment. If you think there's 114 points available and you've got to get to, say, 95, you can't lose many points at all. You've basically got to lose like 3 games and draw 2 or 2 games and draw 2, and that's it. You're done. Do you know what I mean? So with Manchester City right now, it's phenomenal. It's so difficult, man. Tony says, Dan, did you see the news that Chelsea are reluctant to meet Brighton's price? Yeah, I did, because I think what Brighton are trying to do is a bit like what West Ham tried to do and get the amount of money that they think is crazy for him because they know that players want him, teams want him. He's not going to stay at Brighton. That's a fact. He's about, in this market, in this crazy market, he's probably 85 million pounds, in my opinion. At the moment, as a 21-year-old defensive midfielder, he's one of the best in the league on his day. He's not 120 million like they're saying. It's just crazy. Chelsea will pay it though. They're saying that they'll be reluctant to meet it. I don't think they will. I think that's why they're going for it because they know they've just spent 115 on Enzo. They've gutted all of their midfield and they're desperate for midfielders. So Brighton, definitely go for that. As far as Arsenal are concerned, Champions League and London, if Arsenal want him, I think they can get him. So if we're going to be prepared to spend 85 million on Tchouaméni, why don't we do that on Caicedo? Depends. And I get its preference. Some people might prefer Tchouaméni. So we'll see what happens there. Keep your eyes on that one. Okay. Ottawell says, Dan, don't you think we can still hijack the Caicedo deal? Yes, I do think we can, and I think we should. But whether that will happen or not, I'm really not sure. Steve says, how do you think Liverpool and Chelsea had improved from their season last year? I see Arsenal going for the top will be harder with other teams improving. United will want to improve. I think all 3 will be better next season. Chelsea, Liverpool, and Manchester United. Now, with Chelsea, they can't really get any worse because they come 12th. So they're not going to have another one of those seasons. With Liverpool, I think the signings they're making and the links they obviously are, players they're linked with to keep signing, I think they're going to be back. And what I mean by back is challenging, I think, at the top. I don't think they're going to scrape in top 4. I think they're going to be challenging for the top 4, but also with for the title race. They're the ones I would look at as Manchester City and Arsenal's main sort of team that they're going to be fighting with. As for Man United, I worry. I said this last night on the stream with Kaz. I would be very, very worried as a Man United fan. They've signed Mason Mount. It looks like they might get Onana and Amrabat. 2 good signings, by the way. And it looks like their centre forward is potentially going to be Højlund. Is that enough? Is that enough to go, wow, Man United, they're in the title race? I think it's enough for them to get top 4. I think Amrabat's a very good player. And I think with Casemiro and Bruno Fernandes and Mason Mount, Christian Eriksen, they've got enough in midfield now. I think they need another centre-half because Harry Maguire isn't good enough for when Varane or Martinez gets injured. I don't really rate either of their right-backs. Luke Shaw's good on his day at left-back. The goalkeeper needs to go, but Onana would be a fantastic signing, but they've had a bid rejected for him. Højlund, I don't know what he's going to do. He scored 7 goals for Atlanta and he's highly rated, but he's not proven. Anthony's still their right winger, and if it's not him, it's Sancho, and both of those are going to complete waste of money. So Rashford's probably one of their better players still. So apart from Casemiro and Rashford, they've bought a whole summer of players, and Casemiro and Rashford are still their 2 best players. So I think they wanted Harry Kane. They want Harry Kane. He's not going to go. And Harry Kane straight away, without anybody other signing, puts him straight into the title challenge for me with 30 goals a season. But it looks like he's staying at Spurs. James, this is the last question of today. Dan, Dan, we need a striker. Who do you think we should get? Okay, if I was to pick one right now, it would be Vlahovic because he's a different profiled striker. He's somebody that I know knows where the net is, and I know that against Juventus, he hasn't been outstanding, but he was outstanding in Serie A for Fiorentina. Things are going wrong at Juventus off the field, and I can't judge anybody there if I'm honest with you. I don't know one player that's been exceptional for them since all these problems have come on. I think he needs out of there. 77 million, is that what it's going to cost? Probably is if you think about it, because everyone else is about 100 million. So, yeah, I would go get him. I wouldn't rule out a January move for Ivan Toney, but I don't think that's going to happen. If we need a striker right now, it would have to be Ramos or Vlahovic for me. So let's see what happens there. We've got to get rid of players first. That is the big one. Guys, it's been a pleasure. Absolute pleasure. Make sure you do me a favor. Make sure you smash the like on this video. Let's see how many likes we've got at the moment. Guys, we've not even hit 100 likes. What's going on? We've got like 90 likes up, it's telling me. What is going on there? Let's get that up. Well up, please. If you can, there's over 200 of you watching still. So let's get 50% of that at least and try and get it to over 100, please. That would be amazing. If you haven't done that already, make sure you do that now. Also, subscribe. Please subscribe. I'm also almost at 10.5, so I'm on my way to 11K now. The other night, we only got to 10. I mean, this is crazy, absolutely crazy. So thank you all so much for that. You're absolute legends. We're going to leave it there. Please enjoy the rest of your long weekend. Please enjoy the, I say long weekend because I'm kind of got a long weekend, but enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your evening. We'll be back to provide some content for you over the weekend, I'm sure. And then I believe we're going to get some announcements, if you're an Arsenal fan, of Declan Rice and, of course, Jurriën Timber. So please stay tuned for that. And we will see you next time, people. Until then, up the Arsenal. Enjoy your weekend. Latest, people.